Hi, this is John Paulus. You're listening to Life's Potluck Buffet. Today's card is card 28, Passions Are for Hobbies. It's very bad advice to, quote, follow your passion to a job or to turn your hobby into a job. Hobbies and passions are work that we do for ourselves, not for others. For that reason, they are best for self-care and not for paid work. Do them with that idea in mind. If you make a buck doing them, cool. What's your passion hobby? This is one where I get a lot of letters. What do you mean my passions aren't for my paid work? That's crazy talk. I think what's happened that over the years, the world of career advice has kind of gravitated towards this idea of making your passion your job. I think it's because of the dissatisfaction people have with work because of the way that work is configured in our societies around the world. And I think that from that work culture emerged the idea of following your passion and people who would loudly proclaim that idea. I remember first encountering it a long, long time ago. It was on a show on PBS where someone was giving career advice, and all of their examples were how people turned kind of hobby-like interests or passions into careers. And I came away from that episode feeling really sad. And I thought, why am I so sad? These people have come away with these careers, and surely this brings so much joy to their lives. Of the examples given, I didn't personally know any of the people, so I can't really speak to how they felt. But let me say how I feel for myself, which is the best I can do, and the best any of us can do. For me, and for people who engage with their work lives in the way that I do, maybe this is you too, things that I'm passionate about, things that I do as hobbies, as I've talked about in several episodes leading up to this, for me, as I was saying, the world of passions and hobbies are for things that are purely your own interests. And it's not for a customer, it's not for a client, it's not for the rest of the world. It's unpaid work. Because paid work, people need to pay you for things that they want and need, or believe they want and need. And what we do with our passion hobbies are things that we want and need. And so in a sense, we would need to be paying ourselves to do them. And in fact, we do, because we do them for free. We spend money on ourselves in doing them, right? Buying supplies if it involves supplies, or buying memberships or this or that. We do things that we gladly lay out money for because we're spending it on our own products. That's why I always say passions and hobbies are wonderful for self-care and for self-awareness. My passions and my hobbies are all about me. This is now going to show up in one of those videos of narcissists think passions are for hobbies. Oh my goodness. Because every time I search something from Life's Potluck Buffet, I get some sort of video that says like, narcissists always need something from you. That kind of thing. I've talked about that in a previous episode. If I got a video that said narcissists say passions are for hobbies, I would love that. But anyway, I digress. So for me, those passions and hobbies are all about me. Work that I do that someone else is getting is about them. That's, for me, the major distinction here. And as I mentioned, as an aside in the card, listen, if you end up selling, if you like to sell what you make as a kind of hobby or, a hobbyist, I'm not trying to say, oh, you're doing it wrong. You're not. It's just serving a different purpose for you than it serves for me. And so I'm really talking to those people here who might be led astray to think they should follow their passion, but who are like me and know that our passions are for things that we give money for. The core of this card is to understand what work we do for ourselves and what work we do for others. That's the basic message of this card, is to figure out what work we do for ourselves and what work we do for others. And here's a good litmus test that I use myself. I ask myself, if I did this work for money, would it ruin it for me? And if the answer is yes, then I know it is work for self-care. Remember, I used the example of gardening and working with plants in previous episodes. That was a case in which I was applying that litmus test. And as it stands, I'm still on the side of that self-care. I am still not yet at the point where I say, oh, well, that I would take money for that. And that's true for other things as well. And every time I think, would I take money for this, or do I just want to give it away to people, whatever I make? Do I just want to have it for myself and just take care of it? In those cases, those are prime examples of self-care, and those, in my world and in the world of Life's Potluck Buffet, are things that are for hobbies. The more passion that I have for any activity, the more likely it is to be something I won't accept money for. In fact, it is likely to be something that I will spend money and time, our most precious resource, on. And I'll spend a lot of time, which, when you think about it, that precious resource of time, which we all have a limited amount of in our lives, period. Many people spend their whole lives trying to get to a point where their time is their own. And that shows you how important that is. This also doesn't mean you need to hate what you do for money. Far from it. And that's not the point of this at all. In fact, I have another way of thinking the kind of importance and impulse that paid work has for you. And I always talk about that as being compelled by a situation, a circumstance, a need. That's different from passion. And so when I talk about passion, I mean things that you're into for you, and it's about you. That's what I mean when I'm talking about passion here, our passions. If, on the other hand, there is something that you feel compelled to do, in a paid work sense, that's almost what we're always looking for, something that we can't help but do. And notice how the emotion goes away there in a certain way. That passion, that excitement that is associated with the other idea I was just talking about, the hobby idea, that passion is no longer the same in the situation where I'm talking about a feeling of needing to do something, of you can't help but do that. And I always talk about you can't help but do it because it's kind of like you're led by a force that you have inside of you. It's a different kind of feeling than the passion that goes with hobbies. And that is the feeling behind so much life-changing and, frankly, world-changing work out there. And it's that feeling of, I can't stand by and not do this thing. That is heroic work. And that is very different from the self-oriented. Notice how I didn't say self-centered, because there's nothing self-centered about having things that take care of what you need yourself. Self-oriented passion, excitement, hobby work. If you needed to hear that passions are for hobbies, you've come to the right place. So think about distinguishing between things that you do for yourself and things that you are compelled to do that are ultimately for others. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, subscribe, and head to lifespotluck.com for more about the world of Life's Potluck Buffet. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next time.